Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and our review of the Champions League quarter-final first legs. Arsenal have the advantage because lightning struck twice as Real Madrid suffered by the right foot of Declan Rice. Bayern Munich have a lot to do to bounce back after getting caught out by the Inter counter-attack. Aston Villa took a lead that was fit for a prince, but in the end, William and the villains were made to wince. And Barcelona played with no fear whatsoever. It's amazing what you can achieve if you gamble and pull some levers. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, it's your friend, it's my friend, Champions League's very own Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. I forget the rules of the monarchy. Is Prince William allowed to show emotion? I thought he was like Kim Jong-un. You're not allowed to show any emotion. You're not supposed to be human. Isn't that what royals are supposed to be?
Well,
and
so
him celebrating,
him, yeah.
It was an odd one, but
He was celebrating passionately, I would say, Taylor. Maybe performatively, if I were to editorialize.
Oh, really? I don't know. That felt to me like a unique and isolated moment of pure joy for Prince William. Yeah. That's what that felt like to me.
He was on the TNT Sports. I don't know if you saw this, Ryan, but before the game they had him on. Genuinely a better pundit than Rio Ferdinand. It's a low bar, but he actually talked about the PSG press and how they were going to play through. So I don't think he's faking that. I think he is a genuine fan. So
he didn't just yell Ballon d'Or 12 times in a row and call it a day.
No, thankfully. Rio Ferdinand basically did that during this match. I wish someone would turn him off.
What does one think of Morgan Rogers? Ballon d'Or, Ballon d'Or, Ballon d'Or.
Did he answer a phone call from a family member live on air? Because if not, welcome to Jamie Carragher.
Hey guys, real quick. Sorry, be quiet. I'm getting a call.
Yeah. No, make sure you do very high-pitched baby talk to your 20-year-old.
What are you talking about?
No, it was like, oh, wow. What you need? Are you okay? And then they put her on speaker and had a conversation with his daughter. That was what I was looking for my analysis. It was a nice moment. I'm being cynical.
There we go. Joe Lowry, hello, how are you? Thanks for the Scouse impression just there.
Yeah, my first foray, I don't think I'm going back, but I had fun with it,
It was good. I was impressed. And Graham Ruthven, we've heard from you already. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. I enjoyed these games on a scale, Ryan, of Declan Rice having the night of his life to Borussia Dortmund being Barcelona. How much did you enjoy these Champions League matches? It was a good match week, right?
This was a really good match week, I thought. And I think we had one particular game, which I think we're going to kick off with to start here, which was, certainly for Arsenal fans, one for the ages. I think Arsenal 3, Real Madrid 0 is very likely the best night Arsenal have had at the Emirates. So what's that? Nearly 20 years. A very impressive performance for them, with Declan Rice, of course, as previously inferred, scoring 2 incredible free kicks. If you're a member of our Patreon, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, you will know that yesterday on the feed we debated which of these free kicks was the best, because they were both gosh darn good. Graham, we can get into that very shortly, but what do we think of this overall for Arsenal? Perhaps an unexpected 3-0 win for them, but a very, very impressive one indeed.
Unexpected in terms of the margin of the result, not to toot my own horn too much, but I did write a piece. There's evidence on the internet. I wrote a piece before this game saying that I thought this was a golden opportunity for Arsenal. Real Madrid are in bad forms. They're bad at set pieces. Arsenal are good at set pieces. Real Madrid are bad at defending space and behind their fullbacks. Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli are back for Arsenal from injury. So I did feel like this was on the table for Arsenal. But you're right, Ryan, it felt like a momentous night for them. And I know Real Madrid are Real Madrid, but I will be shocked if they can pull this back in the second leg. Not just because of what we saw in this game, but also because of how Real Madrid have played against teams like Leganés and Real Sociedad, and Valencia recently lost at the weekend. All these games, by the way, at the Bernabeu, they've conceded 9 goals over the course of those games. Yeah. So I just don't see them keeping a clean sheet, even if they're able to pull it back through, just the sheer talent of Mbappe and Bellingham and Vinicius. Vinicius, by the way, is dreadfully out of form at the moment. But Arsenal were comprehensively, I thought, the better team here. And look, Real Madrid still had chances in the first half. You're going to have that against Kylian Mbappe, but those chances came from mistakes that Arsenal made. It was a match that was played on Arsenal's terms, and it helped that Declan Rice for 12 minutes turned into prime David Beckham. Or maybe that doesn't even do it justice. Prime Juninho Pernambucano or something. And in that second half, that's maybe the comparison.
Prime me at 5-a-side. Let's
sure, we'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Graham, did you work on that pronunciation before we started recording? I feel like you did.
I just fell into it and hoped for the best.
You nailed it.
Declan Rice is how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Rice.
Yeah, there we go.
Nailed it.
Taylor,
Yes.
Real Madrid have never recovered from a 3-goal first leg deficit to win a Champions League knockout tie.
Either way.
But as Jude Bellingham said, one place where crazy things can happen is our house. Anything can happen at the Bernabeu. I wouldn't be surprised if this one turned around, just for the crazy nature of Real Madrid and soccer in general, but it does seem that it is up against Los Blancos
Yeah,
here.
it absolutely does. I fully think Arsenal have this at hand. I mean, obviously with the scoreline, but also I think with the way the game played out, and specifically how strong Arsenal looked in defense. I liked the 4-4-2. I liked Martin Odegaard running people down on his own, oftentimes waving everybody forward, frequently no one else going with him, because I think he just got a little bit over-energetic at times. But I thought their defensive setup and approach worked really well and nullified a lot of what Real Madrid were theoretically trying to do. And so with the scoreline being as it is, going back to the Bernabeu, where you're going to have a lot of pressure on you, that crowd can be fickle if things aren't going their way. I just think it's up to Arsenal to kind of defend as they did and then exploit any opportunities, because obviously Madrid have to find a way to get some goals and get a result, and I think that's going to be a very tough task for them.
Yeah. Joe, to talk about Arsenal here, I feel a bit sorry for Mikel Merino because I think his goal was very good and no one's going to talk about that. But also, we had some really good performances here. Miles Lewis-Skelly Yar was a sensation in this game, was he not?
He was unbelievable. I have so enjoyed getting to watch him evolve this season for Arsenal. His coming out party on the big stage this season. He plays as a left back in this game for Arsenal defensively. In possession, though, he shifted inside, right? And he did that in a couple of different ways, as Arsenal did that in a couple of different ways in their possession setup. For Arsenal, when they were building from the back, and Real Madrid didn't press a lot in this game, but they did press from time to time. When Arsenal were trying to build through waves of pressure here from Real Madrid, they built up in this 3-2-5 shape. This has become very, very common. It was Jurrien Timber staying deep as that right-sided center back from right back, so he became the third center back. And it was Lewis Skelly, who would then tuck inside next to Thomas Partey. So again, you're having the teenager tuck inside and become this central midfield presence in the highest pressure moments of the game. Then higher up the field, Mikel Arteta kept him in central midfield. So Arsenal would then shift their shape a little bit, and they would move into a 2-3-5. And Timber would then tuck inside to that midfield group as well. So he would leave his right-sided center back spot and go and hang out in midfield. And then you had this midfield three of Lewis Skelly on the left, Timber on the right, and Partey through the middle. And it's not just that he was in these high-pressure areas, Lewis Skelly. It's that he was doing amazing things in these high-pressure areas. He was so impressive to me in this game on the ball and even off the ball with his positioning. 13th minute, just skirts right past Rodrigo in build-up for Arsenal. I'm talking about these being difficult moments where one touch can really condemn you. He was almost infallible in moments like this where he skips past Rodrigo, Arsenal break forward, they get a shot. 19th minute. Incredible press resistance in the attack. Tries to play Martinelli in behind on that left side. Doesn't quite come off. Then when Jurrien Timber goes off, I don't know if you guys remember, he goes off in this game with an injury temporarily. Then he comes back on, and then he ends up coming off again. But when Timber's off, MLS plays as a single pivot for like an entire minute against Real Madrid in the Champions League quarterfinals. And was flawless. Like, he can adapt so well in so many different moments. I was impressed by him in a really, really clear way for the entirety of this game. And he wasn't the only Arsenal player who really popped to me. I thought Bukayo Saka was really sharp on that right side. His first start since before Christmas. It's been a while, and you could tell how he transforms this Arsenal attack. Even just 3 minutes in, he's drawing fouls, getting in good spots for free kicks, which comes up later, believe it or not. 40th minute, he gets in behind and plays this ball across. That's really, really dangerous, teasing, and effective. I was a little surprised that Arsenal didn't try to feed him more in the first half, and I wrote that down before he gets hacked down on multiple moments in the second half. Both of the goals for Arsenal, both of the free kick goals, I should say. Yeah, already forgetting Marino's goal. There I am. Both of those goals, and Billy Carpenter pointed this out on Blue Sky. Billy is the best Arsenal writer on the planet, so his stuff's amazing. Both of those goals came about after Bukayo Saka carried the ball centrally. Right? That was a huge theme in this game, and it's risky to do that against a team like Real Madrid that is so aggressive in transition. And if they pick your pocket in the middle vertical third of the field, Kylian Mbappe and Vinny, all the usual characters are running right down your throat, Roadrunner style, right? So it was a risky play from Saka, but the dude is so good. He's so controlled. He's so in control of his body. Man, he was good in this game. And really, he was, I know Declan Rice was the ultimate difference maker. In terms of the run of play, it was MLS and it was Saka who were running the show for Arsenal.
Joe, quick question. With Saka, when you say you're surprised they didn't feed him more, would you rather, if you're seeing him attack, would you rather see him do those attacks like he did at the end of the first half where he's sort of driving towards the end line and then playing across that dangerous ball? Or would you rather see him sort of with an overload on that right side that we saw a lot with Odegaard over there as well, him moving more centrally, which is obviously where he draws the first foul, like centrally but maybe further away from goal versus driving towards the end line, closer to goal but tighter angle?
Well, and I'm going to nerd out here. There's even like another option here. You're talking about those right-sided rotations where it's Timber, it's Odegaard, and it's Saka, really kind of running that right side. There were moments where Saka would receive wide and cut in, right? Like that we're talking about. There were other moments where one of those players, Odegaard or Timber, mostly Timber, would push wide before the ball was even on their side. And Saka would move into the half space, again, before he's even on the ball, and receive more centrally. There was one of those in the 22nd minute of this game. I like Saka when he's able to get to the end line, because I think that is the most effective action you can have to go and get to that Man City zone and play a cut back across the face of goal. But at the same time, what makes Saka so dangerous and what makes the best wingers in the world so dangerous is that they can do option D, all of the above, right? So it's not as simple in my mind as which do you prefer, which do you want to see, what should he focus on? It is being able to respond to what the defense is giving you, and the truly elite wingers in the world are the ones that are A, the quickest at processing what the defense is giving them, and B, the best at actually executing what the defense is giving them.
Graham, we had this discussion on our bonus feed about Declan Rice's free kicks, but it does warrant some time on the main feed as well. Obviously, it was an incredible 12 minutes for Declan Rice. The first player to score 2 direct free kick goals in a knockout match in the Champions League. The first time he has ever scored a direct free kick in 338 domestic games and 64 for England as well. He decided to have 2 goes at it at this game. They were both spectacular. Thibaut Courtois, his comments after the match were to the effect of, it was my bad for not building the wall properly for that first free kick, which was, incredible, aesthetically beautiful, bending right round the wall. I'm not sure what, maybe another person in the wall would have helped that remedy that. Obviously, he certainly feels that way.
I think it was much more of a like, some people are saying I could have put another person in the wall. Like, I don't feel like he fully agreed with that level of analysis.
I'm not sure I agree that another person in the wall's the right call in that circumstance either. I'm not sure anyone's putting an extra player outside of the post, basically.
Well, yeah, because he has to bend it round the wall and round the post, right?
Yeah.
So when you look behind it, the goal is covered. I just don't know enough about goalkeeping, or I've never had to construct a wall in football, or like a literal wall before, so I don't really know about those things. But I don't know. The criticism for the first one, I don't totally understand that.
No, I'm with you there, Graham. For the reasons you've outlined, it feels like it's covered to the best of one's ability, because you can't legislate for a shot like that, basically. And you definitely can't legislate for the second free kick, because Thibaut Courtois said, fair enough, no one in the world's getting to that. That was perfect. So,
yeah, sorry, one more beat on the wall, because I know this has raged on a bit. It's not just that the goal is covered. It's that the goal is covered, and then there's another body and a half outside the wall, which is pretty standard stuff in a free kick in this position. Is you do want to account for that bend. Like you can curve your foot around the ball such that it is going to bend a little bit, and so you want to account for that. But you can only account for so much of that without leaving tons of other areas of your goal also vacant. Yeah, I think Courtois is pretty much clean in this moment.
To play devil's advocate, because I think he is too, but I think maybe the argument is if you put another body in that wall, the likelihood is that Declan Rice is not going to hit that exact same free kick, because maybe it's not quite as tempting when you recognize how much bend you're going to have to put on it. Like, I think if you see, wait a minute, if I put some bend on it, there's not enough guys, or maybe there's a little gap in the wall, I can find a way around that and in. If you have that extra body, I wonder if he thinks, no, I'll try to go over the top of it. I wonder if he changes the style, I think, is maybe one argument. So I think if it's the exact same free kick, I hear you both, that maybe that extra person on the wall still isn't going to do it. But I wonder if maybe it just changes things a little bit to have somebody in there. Not really criticizing, because it's still sort of very much armchair quarterback nitpicking after the fact. When in reality, it's just an incredible free kick that even Roberto Carlos had to sit stoically and watch.
I love that. The Roberto Carlos. I haven't seen him at a game for so long. He just so happens to be at this game where Declan Rice does that with the first free kick. And do you know what I loved about the Rice free kicks? This might be the most proper football man thing you ever hear me say on this show, right? But Arsenal are clearly a very well coached team. I was thinking about this after the game. Why did that feel like a bolt out of the blue for this Arsenal team? They're a very well coached team, sometimes I think to their detriment. And I think the best teams do have those players who are capable and willing, when it calls for it, when the moment calls for it, to stick one in the top corner from 25 yards in the big moment. You think of Rodri doing it in a Champions League final. You think of Vincent Kompany doing it in that game against who was that against? Leicester City to win the Premier League title. There are moments where even the best teams have that player, And Rice ignores everyone. He ignores the set-piece coach telling him to cross it. He ignores Saka, I think, or was it actually Saka that tells him to shoot? Someone else tells him not to shoot.
Saka was on his shoulder like, go on, bro.
Yeah, he was the devil on his shoulder. He ignores everyone to bang that in the top corner, bend it round the wall. And great players do that sometimes. You might not be able to count on them to do it, but great teams have those players, and I think that's why it felt like something a little bit different for Arsenal. You don't see them doing that all that often, and I loved it. I loved it for that reason.
It was the devil that made him do it? It was the devil Saka, not the angel Saka, who was like, I believe in you. You can do this.
I think it was the devil saying, like, this is super improbable, bro. Like, do something else. That's why it was the devil.
Go for it. Graham, I want to ask you about something you just said. You said they are a well-coached team, sometimes to their detriment. Can you explain what you mean by that?
I've said before that I think Arsenal, they're quite slow in their build-up play, right? So sometimes they've got that one player, Saka, who is willing. He's the explosiveness down that right side. We saw it in this game where he gets to the end line. That's where Arsenal are able to open things up, create something. Without him, and they've been out without him for the last 2-3 months, just find them a very predictable team. And that's been the discussion around Arsenal, is how do they create from open play. So they have that control. I look at the rotations in midfield, like they're all there. The speed isn't there though, and the maybe individualism is a little bit of what they're lacking. And as I say, the best teams like Man City, we talk about Man City, we talk about Barcelona. Like Barcelona have Lamine Yamal, who can cut inside and stick one in the top corner. Like Arsenal, it feels like they still lack that player sometimes. And in this moment, Declan Rice was that player twice.
Well, to Arsenal's credit here, I suppose, or to come to Arsenal's defense, if you take each of the teams you just mentioned, if you take their Bukayo Saka equivalent out of the team, they're probably going to look a bit slower and build up too, right? So I don't know exactly how fair that comparison is. I do take your point, Graham, that Arsenal tend to be a team that is obsessed with control, right? They want to be controlled over frenetic, and Barcelona are at the opposite end of that spectrum amongst the ball-dominant possession teams. We'll talk about them later on. Arsenal are all about making sure that they limit your chances. So I hear what you're saying. In this game, I think that game model worked spectacularly. And it obviously helps when you get a moment of brilliance or two along the way. This wouldn't look the same without that. Even so, Arsenal still had the better chances in open play in this game by a real margin. I think the stat was they basically tripled Real Madrid's open play XG in this game. And it's a single game sample size. It's not predictive in the way that you would want XG to be predictive over a big sample. But I do think from having all of us watch this game that feels pretty appropriate for the areas of danger that both of these teams reached and the shots that were taken. Arsenal defensively.
I feel like I'm being baited here, Joe.
By what?
By me having said previously that I was not fully convinced by this Arsenal attacking performance. Obviously, with a 3-0 win, it doesn't really matter. But I did feel like there were flaws in the way they were trying to attack that were somewhat bailed out by the Declan Rice free kicks.
Well, okay, so I want to hear more about that. Mm-hmm. I'm certainly not trying to argue that Arsenal were a free-flowing, chance-creating juggernaut in this game. Mm-hmm. They weren't. I'm simply arguing that they created better chances in open play than Real Madrid, a team of Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius, again, the usual cast of characters. I was impressed by that. It wasn't like Arsenal were banging down the door in open play. They truly were not in this game. But where I was leading to in all of that is what most impressed me about Arsenal in this game was their ability to control, was their ability to deny Real Madrid obvious chances. Again, this is Real Madrid that we're talking about here. This is one of the most lethal transition teams that this game has ever seen. This version of Real Madrid is one of those most lethal transition teams of all time. And they had almost nothing in this game for 90 plus minutes. That is truly impressive. And if there is one non-set piece thing that deserves credit for Arsenal in this game, it is that they were almost airtight against Real Madrid. I have so much love for that. But Taylor, I do want to hear more about your issues with Arsenal's attack. Mm-hmm. What sort of did you see, and what do you feel like they were missing?
I think, with upfront saying, Arsenal won 3-0, Arsenal were the better team. I thought they were the much more impressive team on the night. So a deserved win, not trying to take anything away from that. I do think there's a reality in which if Declan Rice doesn't hit that first free kick, or maybe both free kicks, that this game more or less plays out the way Real Madrid wanted. I think they were okay with a 0-0 draw away. I think they were okay with trying to absorb whatever Arsenal were throwing at them and then maybe getting an opportunistic goal on the road if they could. And so obviously that does not end up happening. So game plan doesn't work. But I think to Graham earlier saying that Barcelona have Lamine Yamal, I don't think that's the Barcelona player that Arsenal need. I think they need Robert Lewandowski, and that makes them do different things. and it's also not really groundbreaking to say they need a world-class number 9, but the way he can get on the end of things, the way he makes smart runs, the way he finds space in the box is just not something that I think Arsenal have. And so to those Saka balls that he plays in, no one is there because everyone is dropping in to kind of help with possession, but no one has then crashed the box. And that felt like a routine thing in this game, that Arsenal would have really good possession, would control the ball, but then in those final moments, it didn't feel like had enough numbers in the box, had enough people trying to kind of get on the end of something to make something happen. And then it ends up being a very tame run from Saka inside. It felt like he was just trying to do something but had no real options. And then Rudiger fouls him, didn't need to foul him. Courtois pointed that out as well. And then they hit a worldie, and now it's a different game. But I think there's another reality in which that free kick, there is an extra man on the wall, that free kick goes a little bit wide, and Real Madrid win this one 1-0. They don't, so it's not that big of an issue, and I don't think that they will win the return leg, Real Madrid, but it was a strange thing about this game that I felt like Arsenal were excellent and a little bit lacking simultaneously.
Yeah, I think you're both right. I think their chance creation was good, but the capitalisation on it was bad to the point of those two Saka crosses, where it's just absolutely mind-boggling. Like, I know Mika Marino isn't a centre forward, but has anyone at Arsenal watched Saka these last 5 years? You know that's what he's going to do. That's his whole thing, is he wants to get to the byline and put that ball in. And especially after it happens the first time, for it to happen again was just really frustrating for Arsenal. So I went into that first half actually a little bit fearful for Arsenal. A lot of what they wanted to do worked in the first half, and they were still at 0-0, and so I kind of feared that they'd maybe missed their chance. But the start of the second half really made clear to me that Real Madrid had absolutely nothing in this game. They barely had a touch of the ball for about the first 10 minutes of the second half. They were in the 4-4-2 against the ball, but it didn't really feel like it was difficult for Arsenal to get through the first line of confrontation. There was no energy, no urgency. Vinicius was anonymous. Rodrigo was anonymous. I don't like the balance of their midfield when Rodrigo's in that 4 against the ball. Bellingham created a couple of half chances, but he wasn't at his best either. And honestly, Thibaut Courtois stopped this from being an absolute battering, and this tie definitely being over before the second leg with a few saves that he made.
Graham, I was struck by that difference as well, and it like reminds me of in Rocky IV when he finally lands a punch on Ivan Drago. Drago's bleeding, and Rocky's quarterman is like, "You see, he's cut. He can bleed. He's not a machine." I feel like at halftime, Mikel Arteta was like, "You see, they're boring. They're not that good. Like, you can be the aggressive team." And I do think Arsenal had a much more inspired, much more sort of confident, we are less intimidated by Real Madrid in the Champions League, and more so, we're going to try some stuff, and we're going to cause some problems. And I think they did, and I think that was a pretty sizable difference.
Yeah. My highlight of the game was from the crowd, by the way. Arsenal fans singing, "Are you Tottenham in disguise?" to Real Madrid, which is just wonderful.
And then someone asked Big Ange about it the next day. I was watching through my fingers, fearful for that reporter.
What part of his head was visible when he answered that question? Because I feel like we've established that the further down the head goes as he's talking, the more annoyed he is by the question.
I mean, you won't be surprised that he replied, "Oh, mate."
Of course.
Come on, like.
No one uses the word mate more aggressively than Big Ange Postecoglou. We love him for it as well. This win, by the way, guaranteeing England the 5th Champions League spot as well, due to the
What a relief.
Such. I know, we got there. Congratulations to English teams there.
All it took was
Arsenal...
all the money in the world.
Indeed. Arsenal will be feeling bullish after this game, obviously, but looking at how the first legs have fallen, it will likely be a path of Paris Saint-Germain in the semi and then potentially Barcelona in the final as well. So that is a path ahead for Arsenal. We will see how that one unfolds. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go to Bavaria to look at Inter's big win, and of course, PSG looking resplendent, and Barcelona doing a Barcelona to Dortmund. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our Champions League roundup. Let's go to the Allianz Arena. Bayern Munich 1, Inter 2. A replay of the 2010 final, no less, and the same ending, certainly in this one. Bit of a shock result. Lautaro with the opener, the outside flick of the boot, an incredible finish, and Thuram with the really nice back heel assist to Lautaro for that as well.
It's the Billy Baldwin. That's what we've dubbed that move on the Total Soccer Show, because it's not the full Cruyff, so it's not as fully as impressive, so it's the less impressive Baldwin. It's the Billy Baldwin. And it's like that reverse instep control. It is the best assist I can remember in quite some time. My favorite assist of all time is a Guti back heel for Real Madrid. This one is up there because there's just so much to it, and then accentuated by that beautiful Trivela finish from Lautaro Martinez. This goal was beautiful from start to finish.
It was. It definitely was, and it deserves all the praise it's been getting, as does super sub Thomas Muller, who comes on and equalises in this one. Nice Conrad Leimer assist for him as well. Another nice assist in that. And, of course, the dramatic lake strike from David Fratesi to win it for the visitors. That was there was a fun stat about this one. Goran Pandev in 2011 scored at this stadium in that same goal to win it for Inter. Same celebration as well. Took his shirt off.
Same celebration, same sponsors behind the goal, the two videos as well.
Same second,
weird.
Not just the same minute, the same second the goal went in as
when
well.
you say same celebration though, Ryan, did his also feature him taking the shirt off to then remember that he had on a somewhat off-white undershirt that he then immediately ripped off as well? Because that's definitely what happened with Fratesi yesterday.
They both had the off-white undershirt. The difference with Fratesi was he also took the undershirt off and is the buffest man alive.
There was that.
He is pretty well
There was
stacked,
that moment,
guy.
but now all I want is it would be a very cocky move because you would have to prepare for it ahead of time. But I want like the clown scarf thing. Like I want a number 9 who just has like 9 shirts on and just keeps taking them off. Like that's the level of celebration planning we get to.
Excellent, like Joey from Friends, with wearing all of his wardrobe.
be wearing any more clothes?
Could I be wearing any more undershirts?
Excellent stuff. Graham,
That's a topical
obviously,
reference for Joe. Joe, you're on that one, right?
Very
he's
much
on
so.
there. He's on the French train. Don't worry, Graham. Bayern having a fair amount of defensive casualties, it's fair to say, but still a surprising result here.
Yeah.
Harry Kane had a few opportunities. He, hit the post early on in this one. A good result for Inter, but Bayern probably can't help thinking they should have been maybe a couple ahead before they went behind.
Yeah, I'll try and lay out my thoughts on this one because they're kind of conflicting. Because, in a sense, this is how I expected this match to go, in that we knew Bayern would have more of the ball, Inter would be defensively strong, and then try and hit on the counter, right? I just didn't think Inter would be as effective at doing that as they were here. And this is a huge result for Inter. I did some power rankings earlier in the week of the quarterfinalists. I had Inter 7th. I had them well below Bayern Munich. So that I wasn't expecting this result. It really marks them out as genuine contenders for this competition. We have spoken about...
Well,
Dortmund were 8th. Yeah, spoiler alert. I was right about that one. We obviously know in the context of Serie A how good Inter are, but in the context of the Champions League, I didn't really have them up there. But this is a result that puts them up there, and it was a classic Inter performance. Really resolute at the back. They've got the best defensive record in the Champions League this season. They soaked up pressure. They were strong against the ball, and then when they had the opportunity to, they counter-attacked at speed like they did for both goals. The execution on particularly the first one was absolutely incredible, as you say, Ryan. Everything was done at pace. Everything was done with precision. They were fortunate that Bayern were under strength. I think Jamal Musiala is a huge absence for this Bayern team because without him, I think it gets a little bit predictable. It was Rafael Guerreiro who started at the 10 in this game. Which was interesting. He's just not nimble. I mean, it's not his position, right? He's just not nimble enough to get in between the lines and find space. Even when he does get the ball, I don't think he's quick enough to rotate it with his possession play to then get through that Inter defence. I thought Michael Olise looked dangerous off the right. He was probably Bayern's best player. But when he's coming inside, he doesn't really have anyone to combine with. He was drifting throughout the match across the pitch to try and find space. Had kind of varying degrees of success with that. So, Bayern were definitely missing a dimension in this game, and Inter made them pay for it.
Yeah. Philip Lahm, by the way, it hasn't escaped many's attention that in The Guardian this week, just before this game, he wrote an article with the headline, Italian teams cannot cope with modern football's intensity. Yeah. They need a reboot. This coming after Bayern were caught out on the counter by an Italian team in their own backyard.
That's an absurd take. Like, is that, I haven't read this story. I assume he didn't write that headline, or was that from the body of the message? Right?
That was the headline, so presumably, yeah, sub-editor has put that on top of his wise.
Sorry, my bad. Guardian, you said, right?
Yeah, it was probably Graham. But yeah, that was ill-timed, shall we say. And just to come back to the assists, by the way, Taylor, obviously the lovely assist for Lautaro. Thomas Muller had a very nice assist from Leimer. And I did enjoy Carlos Augusto with the classic hit it and hope as hard as you can into the box.
Smash it!
Assist. Yeah.
Deal with this. Just get on the end of it. Just bundle it over the line. I don't know what part of his body it came off.
I think it's genius. Did not look up, so clearly was just going for the I'm going to shoot this at the 6-yard box and see what happens. And luckily Fratesi controlled it perfectly. So it did end up looking like a deliberate play, but I'm pretty sure that was just a head down smash and hope. And the hope worked out.
And he was really good. I know DeMarco's fitness has been a big topic in Italy ahead of this match, and for the last few weeks, he's such a key part of how Inter play down that left side. I thought Carlos Augusto's DeMarco impression was really good throughout this match. He has the assist for that goal, but it's also he gets forward for the first goal, right, and plays it into Thuram. It's him that's getting down. So he was great in this game and really helped with the way that Inter were able to spring out.
Definitely so. Perhaps the most delicately poised of the Champions League quarterfinals so far, this one. We shall see how this one pans out when it goes to San Siro next week. Slightly less delicately poised is Aston Villa's clash with PSG. PSG with a 3-1 win at the Parc des Princes. Well, I suppose Villa were, Joe, right in it until sort of that Nuno Mendes 92nd minute strike made it 3-1, because 2-1 they might be able to make a bit more of it at Villa Park next week. But really, this was a game of really good goals. If there was really good assists in Bavaria, this one we had Kvaratskhelia scoring a really, really good goal. Desiree Doué brilliant with his as well, and Nuno Mendes with that turn for his strike as well. High quality stuff going into the net, Joe.
Very much so. Doué's goal is the pick of the litter for me in the 39th minute. It is just such an absurd curling strike that if we hadn't just gotten absurd curling strikes from the Arsenal game the day before, maybe would be a little higher up in this episode. PSG are breaking news, a very, very good team, and they showed that in this game against Aston Villa. I thought Aston Villa conducted themselves fairly well for a big chunk of this game. You could see what the game plan was from Villa very, very early on in this match, where essentially, as I clocked it, and formations are made up, et cetera, but really Villa were defending in like a 6-4-0 shape, where they would send... So it started as a 4-4-2 in the press, right? So, okay, that's a normal like soccer formation. We're all there. Named a magazine after it, so I think we're on board. Then as they would drop deeper and deeper and deeper, two members from that midfield bank of four would drop into the back line. And usually it was Boubacar Kamara on one side. We got a lot of Jacob Ramsey, though, tucking back as well. There was a lot of players dropping back into the back line to help support. And oftentimes it looked like a flat back six, which is not totally unheard of, but it's a testament to how afraid Villa were of PSG, and rightfully so. They were really trying to compress space. And PSG didn't have an obvious amount of attacking joy in the first half. They had chances, and they had better chances to bring back the Arsenal Real Madrid like nuanced discussion. But Doué's goal is a hopeful effort, right? Doué listened to the devil on his shoulder telling him to let it fly on that one. It's not a goal that you expect to find the back of the net. But the one that really, I think, broke Villa in this game, and the one that they will kick themselves for, is the Kvaratskhelia goal in the 49th minute, where it is not PSG breaking down that 6-4-0 block. It's PSG on the break. And Villa could not afford, and you could tell by how they set up in this game, they knew that they could not afford to give PSG a lot of open space to run into. And they slip up in this moment in the 49th minute. It is a rare, super rare counterattacking opportunity for PSG. And Kvaradskhelia just scores this phenomenal goal on the left side of the box, and it's 2-1. It is just nightmare stuff from Aston Villa, who broke their own number one rule of this game. And that for me was kind of the turning point of, well, okay, yes, maybe they still hold on. Either way, they're in a one-goal hole, and they're not going to be favored in the second leg. And then PSG continue a lot of that momentum. Villa don't get a ton of amazing chances in the second half whatsoever. And Mendes, as you said, Ryan, kind of finishes the job.
Joe, obvious follow-up question from me. Have you seen The Dark Knight Rises?
Yes.
Batman versus Bane? Cool. Do you remember their initial fight scene? Because that was this game in a nutshell for me. Was basically like...
The
Villa trying to throw everything they could in every way at PSG, because to your point, I think they were... conducted themselves well. There are moments when they play really beautiful one-touch passing soccer. There's a moment when, Martinez, I think it was the 51st minute, he has a pretty strong save, and then he hops right back up. The Villa defender collects it, plays it back to him, and they play a wall pass and then build out from there. And so there were these moments that were impressive, but ultimately it was PSG just saying, oh, you think possession is your ally? And then smashing them. And so everything Villa did that was even pretty good, it felt like PSG were just on another level. And they are so fast with everything they do. The way they attack individually, the way they attack as a unit, the way they flood the box with numbers, but then also the way they defend and then defend deeper. Just the work rate on this team is next level. And really, Ryan, you're totally right that it was the third goal that kind of seals it. But even at 2-1, it felt like, oh, they have found their gear. This is going to be a tough one for Villa from here on out.
Yeah, definitely so. You know, the way to my heart is to mention a Nolan Batman movie, by the way. Thank you very much, Taylor. I appreciate that.
Theatricality and deception are the ways of Unai Emery, as we all know.
Indeed, Unai Emery, of course, with some narrative here facing his former team, and the strange sight, Graham, of Marco Asensio subbing on to play against the team who are presumably at least paying some of his wages, his parent club at this point.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why that's a thing that's allowed.
Well, why wouldn't it be? He wants to show them, right? He wants to score for the team or do well for the team that he's currently playing for. I have no problem with that. I get frustrated with these leagues that prevent players playing against their lone club. They've allowed it in Spain for like 20 years and it's been fine. I actually thought he would start, Marco Asensio. I'm not sure I liked Marcus Rashford starting up for. Or I'll rephrase. I don't think he had a great game here, and I think this is where we see the difference between Manchester United and Aston Villa and just the spotlight on those two clubs, because I think if he plays like that in a big game for Manchester United, he's getting it absolutely slaughtered. Where I understand how Emery wanted to use him. He wants to get him on his bike, he wants to get him drifted out to the left side, then you have Morgan Rogers and Jacob Ramsey kind of running around him, John McGinn backing him up. I thought his execution was really poor. I thought there were at least 3 moments in this match where he just takes a little bit too long to do something. And that's the Marcus Rashford we saw at Manchester United. But that's the Marcus Rashford we thought had disappeared at Aston Villa. So I didn't think he was great in this game. And Marco Asensio on the bench was a bit of a surprise given how good he's been since how many goals he's scored. And I just thought having him as a finisher making late runs into the box might have been quite useful. But Morgan Rogers, pretty good as well. Jacob Ramsey, pretty good as well. John McGinn was excellent for the goal. John McGinn also creates almost an identical chance from the other side where he pinches the ball in midfield and he plays it centrally to Morgan Rogers, and I bet the XG on that shot is not very good, but the reason it's not very good is because he could have gone further into the box. He had runners either side. It could have been a much better opportunity for Aston Villa, and that was at 2-1. That could have made it 2-2. So that third goal is just such a killer for Aston Villa, and at this point I don't see them pulling it back because PSG are going to play a similar game, right? They're going to have control in that second leg as well.
And speaking of that third goal, I wanted to mention one individual player who did other things in this game, but Ousmane Dembele on this goal, if people can go back and watch, I would say do it. And watch in the build how he is so aware of everything that's happening, both with his team, but also with what Villa are doing defensively, that when Kvardana gets the ball in like the right half space, but like 45 yards from goal, Dembele is sort of making a diagonal run towards him and towards goal and recognizes that all the midfield is moving with him at the same time. And so Dembele just stops and the midfield keeps moving. And now he is like wide open in a pocket of space. Kvardana plays him the ball, Dembele, he receives on the half turn. And that's why he's able to then attack, because he's gotten basically behind the midfield, but in between them and the defense, so he can then have all that time to play that ball in behind. But it's just a little tiny moment. It's a little tiny like, oh, I'll just stop and everybody will keep going, and that's exactly what happened. And it's nothing too elaborate. It's not a Trivela. It's not a Billy Baldwin assist, but it is just a little moment, and that level of simplicity can make all the difference.
Yeah, and it's so impressive to me how fluid Dembele is as a player. We've talked about this before, where he's played on the wing, he's played as a 10 in the tip of a diamond, he's played as a 9. And even to expand beyond just Dembele, one thing that I think makes this PSG team really special is that as a whole, they're incredibly fluid, right? Nuno Mendes scores that third goal. He spends most of this game playing as a third center back, right? In possession, which was the whole game, as we've talked about already. He's playing as that left-sided center back, but he is very dangerous still going forward. I don't think that's his best role, but he's clearly comfortable in those more advanced areas. Hakimi can get forward on that right side. Fabian Ruiz is so fluid in his positioning in central midfield, where he's got the size to be an asset in the box, but he's got the technique to be an asset, anywhere on the field, on the ball, where he can face forward. And then that's not even talking about the two wingers in this game of Kvaratskhelia and Doué, who flop sides at times. They would rotate centrally, and Dembele would move wide at times. Defending this PSG team has to be a nightmare because of how fluid they are on the field. Defending a PSG team that doesn't have to care about anything right now except for the Champions League because they've already won their league title has to be just the worst thing that you can do in a soccer game, maybe outside of defending Barcelona, because that's where we're at these days.
Yeah, I love watching this PSG team. Joe, that front three is absolutely incredible. They're all dribbly boys as well. Desiree Doué. The best comparison I can make for Doué is Neymar, in terms of some of his touch, his skill set, the fact that he's not like an orthodox wide player, but he's not centre forward either. You don't really know
Lamine
what.
Yamal, Graham?
Lamine Yamal, I think, has more of a traditional wide starting position than Doué. Like Doué can play central, he could go over to the left, and that's the way that they play. Joe, I think PSG are the best team in this competition. We're going to come on to the team that I think is the second best, that I want to be the final. I'm trying to poke holes in PSG, right? Because they're utterly relentless. They very much remind me of Pep's Barcelona, where as an opposition team, it feels like surviving against them rather than actually like doing anything to impose your own game. I'm wondering, and this is the latest episode of Joe versus Chance Creation, they have lots of shots, PSG, but quite low quality shots. They don't really have a lot that's within like the 12 yards of the goal. They don't have like an orthodox centre forward.
In this game, you mean?
Well, yeah, in this game, but also like that was the case against Liverpool as well. That's been the case for a lot of this year. How worried by that should we be? Like, they've got great players who are excellent at shooting from like 16 yards out. The fact that they don't create anything kind of closer than that, or regularly create anything closer than that, is that the one thing that could see them fall down?
I think it is one of the things that could see them fall down. It's difficult for anybody, right? Whether you're PSG or any team, to do what they were tasked with doing in this game against Aston Villa, where space is at such a premium. You're going to end up with a lot of pot shots and not as many really high-quality chances to the center. Your hope is that you find more of the latter, but it really is difficult to do that. I look at this PSG team, and I think they've got a pretty reliable attacking group that can find some of those looks. You could argue that maybe their lack of a true number 9 in Luis Enrique's first choice starting 11 does put them in sort of that Arsenal conversation that we had earlier about them not crashing to find some of those balls across the face. I am worried about that, but I'm not super worried about that. I think a lot of this is going to be matchup dependent for PSG, because against a team like Barcelona, am I worried about them finding chances? Absolutely not. No, I'm not. Am I worried about them conceding chances? You bet I am. Am I worried about PSG finding chances against Arsenal? Yeah, a little bit. I am a little bit worried about that. Am I worried about them giving up a ton of chances against Arsenal? Maybe not, right? So it's this sliding scale that I think is very much matchup dependent. I do think there are flaws in this PSG team, and I think there is a really interesting conversation to be had about who is the better of Barcelona and PSG. Because I know from a discussion before we started recording that at least Taylor and Graham are on the PSG train. I don't know where I fall. Ryan, are you on that train as well?
Oui.
Okay, so everybody's on that train. I think this PSG team is great. I think they are less mistake-prone than Barcelona. I also think their ceiling is lower than Barcelona. So I'm fascinated by this, and I really do hope we're on this collision course to figure out which of these two teams really is going to get one over on the other in the final, because that would make for an absolutely unbelievable game.
Am I alone in thinking that if you swapped Arsenal Real Madrid with Bayern Inter, maybe it would feel different? Because I do feel like Inter are also so well organized, but also have difference makers that also are very technical and can be kind of scrappy. I think they could cause PSG some problems potentially. I think Arsenal, I like that 4-4-2 defensive shape that I talked about. I think they could also be difficult for PSG. I just see enough erratic performance from Arsenal over 90 minutes that PSG can find something. Inter just seem much more machine-like in their approach, and maybe could be more of a problem, but instead there'll be a potential problem for Barcelona.
Yeah. Them's the way the brackets falls, I guess, T-Rock, in this circumstance. I think, Joe, to make a very small point on Barcelona over PSG, in which train I'm riding on, I feel like even though Dortmund got hammered, they still had some moments where they opened Barcelona up a bit, and there is a bit of vulnerability, which I don't necessarily see in PSG. So I suppose that's where I land. I
think that's the great argument to make, and I think I was trying to get at that with PSG are a team that is less likely to trip themselves, and Barcelona are happy to do that from time to time. You also look at, though, the chances that these two teams created, and if PSG allowed fewer chances, they also created fewer chances. And Barcelona, if they allowed more chances, they also created more chances. So it's tricky. And generally in a knockout competition, I would trend towards PSG's approach of having a little bit more control. But when you have just absurd talent like Barcelona do, I don't begrudge Hansi Flick for opening up the game either. I think both of these teams are phenomenal. I was a little bit more convinced by Barcelona in this set of games than I was by PSG. But also, Dortmund is not a very good team, so there's that.
Indeed. Okay, well, let's get to them and Barcelona's triumph over them in the next section. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our Champions League review. One game left to look at, that is Barcelona 4, Borussia Dortmund 0. Robbie Lewandowski, the aforementioned, with a brace here. Rafinha with a goal he definitely deserved. And, of course, a couple of assists for Rafinha as well in this one. Lamine Yamal finishing off the 4-0 scoreline as well. Rafinha has equalled Leo Messi's record of 19 Champions League goal involvements in a single season for Barcelona. That 17th or so was very deserved, as established. Rafinha, Joe, is good at the soccers. Discuss.
Very, very much so. And he did so much in this game on the left side for Barcelona. where, yes, he's finding the back of the net. Also, he is providing really classy, heady, pun sort of intended assists. Taylor, did you? I think you have thoughts about this as well. Do you want to do the Rafinha assist bit?
Did you find the assists significantly more impressive than the goal? Because I did.
Yeah, I think I did. I'm just generally kind of in awe of Rafinha, so I'm just happy to take it all in. But yeah, take this one.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. That he's a player that I know is very good. Occasionally, I'm like, oh yeah, pretty good. And in this game was the like, I don't know. It all came together for like, oh, whoa, Rafinha can be next level when he wants to, because like the headed assist back across is so deliberate, so very obviously what he is aiming for, to then drop it on the head of a wide open Robert Lewandowski at the back post to then head in. But the way he's able to do it by contorting his body, like the physics and agility involved to be able to put the exact like cushioned weight on it that he does while flying out of bounds is incredibly impressive. But then again, his agility and flexibility to play the ball in behind for the Lamine Yamal goal is almost as impressive, if not more so, because I want to say like 90% of footballers in the world take another touch and then either try to like take a touch and then play with their left foot, or take a touch and then like hit a trivela with their right foot, just because of the angle he's driving at, the speed he's playing at. And I think he wants to get his feet set and then play that ball in, knowing that Lamine Yamal is going to be wide open if the ball is played well. But I think if he does take that touch, the chance is probably gone. The angle is probably cut off, or maybe Yamal strays offside. And so he has to hit it exactly as he does, exactly how he does. But it's such a high degree of difficulty for that ball in behind that I just came away incredibly impressed by the aerial assists of Rafinha, but also the footed assists of Rafinha. Those are stats, right? Advanced stats, footed assists?
Totally. Yep,
Cool.
yep, 100%. They're on FBref's homepage for sure.
Should be.
I love that. And I also love the connection we've seen this year between Rafinha and Yamal. It's not common that you see as many passes, I suppose, between those two players out wide. For a team, like, to have your wingers with such clear chemistry is super fun to watch. This is not the first cross-field assist we've seen from Rafinha to Yamal this season. It's a blast to watch. And this Barcelona team, their ability to knife down both wings, Lamine Yamal is absurd, and I'm trying to not let his genuine greatness become something that I'm numb to, because it's really easy to do, because we've heard his name a lot. He's stupid good. And Rafinha is just incredible on both wings, and to have Lewandowski in sort of the form of his Barcelona life right now, the midfield controlling games as they are. Dortmund, I don't think ever had a chance, like not a singular chance in this game. I did not back them to do well in this match. They did not. This Barcelona team is dominant in the attack, and if you don't have a true force to punish them the other way, you're not going to do well against them. And Barcelona lived up to that billing that I had in my head for them in this game.
Dortmund had that difference maker. He was just only on the pitch for 23 minutes.
That's right. Yeah, his mom didn't put him.
He has a shot right inside the box late on. I mean, the game's already done.
He had Gio Reynas, who we're talking about. He had
Nicolas
such a maybe needed 5 more minutes of warming up performance, because I think his first 2 or 3 passes go straight to Barcelona. The third of those, though, is a kind of like centering pass inside the box. Maybe somebody should have been on the end of it. But then Graham, he has that sort of turn that I don't think many other players in the USMNT pool could pull off, and then he gets that shot off. And so once again, we see that little flash that's like, oh, right, incredibly good, not consistent enough, and obviously not able to make the difference on the day.
I want the record to show that I did not bring up Gio Reyna's name in that discussion and was not planning to.
Yeah.
I'm done.
The team that heroically drafted him is willing to discuss him.
Well played.
Somebody
had to do it, Taylor. You stepped up to the plate in a big way.
That team finished behind my team in the draft? Or?
All right, kids, let's settle down for a second.
What draft? Sorry, I don't.
Fake news. Yeah, there you go.
Refer back to our USMNT weekly draft listener if you would like more context on whatever is happening right now. Hansi Flick's record as a manager against Dortmund from Squawka. Played 7, won 7. So Hansi Flick loves destroying German teams, including his own national team, arguably. Graham... this Barcelona team is a lot of fun to watch. PSG are a lot of fun to watch. If the chips fall as they appear to be falling, are we in for a very fun Champions League final?
That's my hope. When you look at the bracket, it became apparent this week that that's the final I think most neutrals want. That's certainly the highest quality final. I thought this Barcelona game was kind of the thesis statement on this Barcelona team, where I didn't think they were that great in the first half. I thought the midfield maybe didn't have as much control as you would like. They were a little bit sloppy in the attack. There were like half chances or openings is maybe the better way to describe it for Dortmund, where Girassi seemed to have a handle on the offside trap and Brandt was dropping deep, and that gave Chukwuemeka some freedom as well. So there was some good stuff from Dortmund in that first half. Second half, completely different story, and in the period in the space of about 25 minutes, Barcelona score 3 goals and the game is done, and there's no better team in Europe at progressing the ball quickly. You know, it's Lamine Yamal wants to knife through the defences. You've got Pedro who's willing to get him on his bike as often as possible. Balde wants to jump 40 yards with the ball as well. De Jong is a ball carrier who wants to get in the counter. Rafinha wants to attack open space. Like that's where Barcelona can just blow away any team in like 30 minutes, and they might well do that to PSG. But PSG, I think, are the more complete team, and I just have more faith in them. I mean, Joe's already kind of outlined it. They are. I envisage a race where Barcelona's top speed is higher than PSG's, but they keep falling down like every 20 yards. And it's just whether they can make up enough ground. PSG is a more kind of like steady speed throughout the 100 meters.
Taylor, one final question on this game and this episode, and I mean this with all due respect to any Barcelona fans listening. But what kind of God would allow them to be as good as they are right now, given what they've done with the lever pulling, given the sort of the gambles they've taken with players and with financial precariousness?
The La Masia God.
How have they ended up so good after that stuff didn't happen that long ago? I don't understand.
Are you not familiar with Herodisius, the Greek god of creative financial lever pulling?
That's it.
Yeah. And also maybe wine. I think they were all gods of wine, but then there was creative financial lever pulling and creative accounting.
I've been there.
The SNL sketch in which the Greek gods are assembled during the Greek financial collapse to try to figure out who's in charge of the treasury, to realize that no one was in charge of the treasury. That feels like maybe somebody was asleep at the wheel for this one from the Greek god perspective. But yeah, I mean, going the other way, it's a testament to them that they found a way to make this happen. Sure, Spotify now owns 12% of Robert Lewandowski, but whatever. Who needed that 12%? They can still find goals. It's all good.
It's like
he's going to be body popping till the.
I mean,
dance, Robert, dance.
I did enjoy all of his like dad celebrations with Lamine Yamal are my favorite, because it's just like, you two are not the same, but Robert Lewandowski desperately wishes that they were, specifically in the age gap range. But really, like, what? It's Barcelona versus PSG. Are they the better of the duo? Like, the club that I love is owned by a dude who made his money fracking. I don't know. It's all the same. Whatever.
Okay, that's a solid answer.
Go Wimbledon. How about that?
Yeah, thank you very much.
But
good
boo
stuff.
Phoenix Rising.
Joe's
Hey,
got it right.
I'm a Sterling Albion fan today, Taylor.
YouTube viewers know.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Guys, you know who's
Check it
going to
out.
love a final between PSG and Barcelona if he hadn't died 81 years ago?
Go on.
Vasily Kandinsky, the Russian-born painter famous for his love of triangles. Nailed it. Because there's going to be so many passing triangles in that final. It's going to be immense.
Oh,
They're going
yes.
to pass and pass and pass
I
and
know
pass
who
and
that
pass. It's going to be
person
so
is.
fun.
So good, yo, to explain it. Oh,
The best kind of joke.
This is the kind of high culture references you tune in for, listener, on the Total Soccer Show. Thank you very much, Taylor, once again.
No problem. I definitely didn't Google artists who use triangles to come up with that joke on the fly.
Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells. Those are artists use triangles, right?
Yes, and I've heard of that person.
nailed it.
Too highbrow for you, Taylor. You take your Greek gods
Most
and you
things
go
are.
and listen to some Mike Oldfield. That's my suggestion to you. But for now, that is our Champions League roundup. We'll, of course, be back on the feed for the second legs of these games next week. But for now, Taylor, once again, thank you very much. My good man.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Joe Lowry, pleasure as always, sir.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Graham Rutherford.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And thank you, listener, for joining us on this one. We'll be back on the feed very shortly indeed. But for now, bye.